All right, well, a good Wednesday afternoon to you, Central Georgia. Continuing to get more and more details about our potential for some weather or winter weather as we head into Friday morning. So we'll go over the latest data. I'm going to have a lot of graphics. I've been making it a mission of mine. We don't have too many winter weather graphics here on the weather team. Obviously, don't get winter weather too often. So that's why we're stressing all of this, and we have issued our weather impact alert day for Friday. So I'm going to go through all the graphics with the latest data that we do have, some key points, and then also I'm going to sum it up with those three main points that you need to know: where we've trended, what's changed since yesterday, and where we continue to go in the next 48 hours as we do approach this event. So to start out, we have a weather impact alert day that is going to go for Friday. Right now it is set for all day Friday because we're still going to need to monitor the concern for things like ice on the roads if temperatures are conducive to produce those. The main impact we are looking at is the potential for a wintry mix. We can't rule out a few snow flurry showers, but that is looking more and more like it's going to be to the further north that you do live. But still, a wintry mix looks to be present across most of central Georgia, especially during the early morning hours when our temperatures are the lowest. So what you need to do is to continue to stay very diligent into the forecast, continue to stay updated with us. Each model run is coming in and saying something new, so obviously with the more recent trends that we do have, we can get a better idea closer to the potential for those wintry mix as we go into central Georgia. So I have our short range future view, and this was the big thing yesterday. We were awaiting yesterday evening to try to get our short range future view into sight about what is going to happen because our graph model typically does a pretty good job. I'm going to take this full screen so you guys can see exactly what I'm talking about. So right now this is 6 a.m. on Friday. This is just one individual model run, and we have a couple other models that I'll show you. This is our graph. This is what you'll see us use every day in our weather hits. So right now 6 a.m. it shows that precipitation not quite hitting us, but once we get closer to the 7 a.m. hour, that pink color, that winter mix, is going to start to move into our western counties. It looks like the snow is further up to the north, but then as of the latest couple of model runs, you'll start to see this pink engulfing most of central Georgia around 9 a.m. and then you'll start to see some flashes of blue, some flashes of white here on the future view model runs. This is around 10 a.m. So this is pretty recent that we're seeing more of this snow according to this model, but once we get to about 9 to 10 a.m. I think our temperatures are going to be just above freezing temperature. So I'm not too sure if I really believe what this model is saying, but this is as of the latest model run with this. And then as we continue throughout the morning hours, get closer and closer to that midday hour, that's when we're looking at more of that pink color to take over, and also some of that green starting to move into our southern corridor here in central Georgia. And you're still seeing a good mix of everything. Our northern tier of counties still have those snow showers, a wintry mix in our northern half, and then as you go south of I-16, just looking like a really cold rain. Well, now with the new latest model run, it's saying that this winter mix is going to stick around for most of the day. Once again, I think our temperatures are going to be a little bit too warm for this to happen, and we'll go over what some of the temperatures say here in just a second. But right now, that's where this model stands. Maybe some occasional breaks from the rain, and then as we head throughout Friday evening into Friday night, still a winter mix mainly to the north of us, but still some of our northern counties could get that. And then once we get into the Friday evening, we're really just looking like on and off rain and still going to be very cold in nature. And then the system will move off the Atlantic coast as we head into Saturday morning. Now I want to take it over to another high resolution model that we have. This is the HRRR model that we do see. I believe the temperatures on here are a little more accurate than what I'll show you with the graph model, but as we play it through the pause points, there is a noticeable difference right here. This is 2 a.m. on Friday, and the HRRR model already has some rain moving into our western corridor. The rain chance is definitely trending earlier with this model, so that would have implications for some cooler temperatures during the overnight hours, maybe more of a wintry mix, but it's still not too keen on popping up that winter precipitation, besides mainly in our northern row of counties here in central Georgia. That takes us on to 4 a.m. and then by the time, as far as this one goes out, is about 8 a.m. You'll see about that time is when we're still looking at mainly rain here in central Georgia, but those temperatures are what I want you to keep an eye on on here. As we start to get some of that rain moving into the central Georgia area, you'll see some areas are hovering below the 32-degree mark and have the chance of a winter mix, but it still looks like predominantly rain here in central Georgia according to this model run. And like I said, as far as this one goes out, it's about 8 a.m. right now, and still all of the winter weather mainly looks to be to our north. So I'm going to flash it back to our graph model. That is the first one that I showed you. This one just has the temperatures on it, and it's zoomed in just a little bit here in central Georgia. So right now, 7 a.m. is when it says that our precipitation is going to start to move into our western corridor. This is about 5 hours behind what the HRRR model has, and the HRRR is definitely trending the earliest of the models that I've seen. So once again, we're going to keep an eye out for the timing of when that precipitation does move in, because if it moves in a little bit earlier, temperatures are more than likely going to be pretty cool. Now, the graph likes to do a funny thing in the winter months. It likes to not really go below that 30-degree mark, so I think these temperatures may be hovering a little bit warmer than they actually will be at this time at 7 a.m. But nonetheless, it's still showing 34s, 35s, maybe even 36s as we go into 9 a.m. Well, like I said, I think it's hovering a little bit high, but this still looks like a good range above freezing temperature, and is showing snow showers on this model. So obviously you can't have that once you get above 32 degrees. It is not feasible for snow to start falling. But we continue to see these 35s and 34s and 36s all throughout Friday afternoon as we continue to get this precipitation. So again, I'm not too keen to really believe this model, at least according to the temperatures, but at the same time, it's something we'll continue to keep a close eye on. So nonetheless, I'm going to flash it back to me now so you can kind of see what I'm talking about with these specific graphics that I'm showing you. Obviously, wintry mix, that's going to be your freezing rain, your sleet. That's going to have implications for ice typically. So let's just go ahead and roll over what our graph model says according to exactly what we're looking at in the form of ice, possibly here accumulating in central Georgia. And you'll see a brief flash right up here behind the timestamp in the top left corner. That is all the ice accumulation that it's showing, and you don't need much ice for it to have an impact. About 1/10 of an inch is going to be good enough, and we're not seeing any of that accumulating here in central Georgia. It looks to be further to the north and the west of us, so that is good news, not looking at the accumulation of ice. But this is just one model run. We have a couple other model runs that show some different outcomes right there, and we'll get to those in just a second. But like I said, the big important thing that we really need to look out for is how low those temperatures will get on Friday morning. My morning low right now, as forecasted, is 26 degrees for Friday morning. It's 1 degree higher than I had forecasted of 25 for Friday morning yesterday. So if we continue to see a warming trend with that low temperature, obviously we're going to get closer and closer to that freezing temperature mark, and the window is going to get smaller for when it's going to be the most conducive to allow for that winter precipitation. And also, we have been looking at some question marks maybe for Saturday morning. Our temperature is going to get low enough. Are we going to get some wraparound moisture that is going to sprout a couple of snow showers or maybe some winter mix? Right now, 32 degrees is still where I'm standing on my low for Saturday morning. So we're going to receive our fair share of rain one way or the other, whether it's frozen or whether it's going to be that liquid precipitation. So we're going to get the puddling up of water all across many areas here in central Georgia. If we get back down to that freezing temperature mark to start out Saturday morning, those areas could very well freeze over, so we'll have to continue to keep an eye out for that. And now, like I've been saying, wintry mix. There's probably a lot of question marks about exactly what that is. Well, there's 4 different forms of precipitation. You have your typical rain, which we see more often than not here in central Georgia. That is going to be starting at the clouds at the very top of the graphic. That's going to be precipitation that starts as a liquid as it falls from the cloud and continues all the way down to the ground as a liquid. So then you have your wintry mix, and that's going to be these 2 categories, freezing rain and sleet. That is going to be water that falls as a liquid from the clouds, but the closer and closer you get to the ground, that's when you start to get a little bit of that frozen precipitation. So freezing rain freezes once it hits the surface, and that is where you can get a rapid forming of ice here in central Georgia. And sleet is going to be the same thing. It's just going to freeze a little bit higher up in the atmosphere, and it's going to create ice pellets that will hit the ground. Also can cause implications for ice if that is to melt on the surface once it does hit it. And And then snow is going to be water that starts as a liquid and it falls all the way down to, or not a liquid, excuse me, it's going to be water that starts as a solid and falls all the way down to the ground as a solid. That is going to be your frozen precipitation. And then obviously snow is something we're not really too confident on, except maybe our northern counties seeing a couple of flurry showers here in central Georgia. So I really think that these two are going to be the big focus of this forecast. It's going to be your freezing rain and is going to be your sleet. All right, we're going to flash it over to two more models right here, the European and the GFS. These aren't as high resolution as the graph and the HRRR that I just showed you, but still giving us a good idea. The European model is seemingly thinking, okay, 7 a.m., that's when we're going to be our coldest here in central Georgia, right there around sunrise. It's looking like some areas could see that winter mix, maybe a slim chance of possibly some snow showers in white, but really the cold rain takes over all across central Georgia. Now, if I had to pick my favorite model of any that I'm going to show you, right now I'm more likely to believe this European model, especially with temperatures that are going to hover at or just above freezing temperature. I think it's going to be about the coldest that rain can possibly get before turning into a winter precipitation, and it really looks like this is going to be an all-day cold rain event. Obviously, it's not very suitable to be outside. It's messy weather. It's just something that you really don't want to encounter on your way out the door. But this would be a better case scenario and obviously not have ice implications here in central Georgia. And it still remains, or still goes with the belief that the winter precipitation, the winter mix, and the snow showers will remain further to the north of us. And then the system will move out sometime around the mid-morning on Saturday. But let's go ahead and look at the ice parameter associated with this. This one gives us a little bit better of an idea. And I've gone ahead and moved it up to the north. So you'll see Atlanta, Athens, East Griffin, LaGrange, areas not in our central Georgia viewing area. They're running the chance of seeing some ice accumulation. And even though this pink shaded area doesn't go over some of these areas that you do see, maybe even about a tenth of an inch of accumulation of ice in our very northern tier of counties right there in Eatonton. So like I said, the further north you live, you're going to have the greater chances of encountering this winter weather. Now let's take it over to the GFS, the American model, and you'll start to see around 6 a.m. this is moving in as some winter weather, and that is very conducive with the temperatures obviously going to be their coldest. Once we get closer to about 9 a.m., it's saying a mix of winter mix and maybe some snow. And once again, I think the temperatures are going to be warming up, so I'm not really too inclined to believe this model, but this is what a lot of the models have been saying. So maybe our temperatures are going to hover a little bit below freezing temperature. That's something we're still trying to nail down with some certainty here in central Georgia. But the consensus continues to be that this is going to lead the way into a very cold rain here in central Georgia. So whatever rain, snow mixture that we do get, we're going to warm up throughout the afternoon, and that's going to allow for the melting of that frozen precipitation that is at the ground. So this gets on out of here a little bit later. This is about 2 p.m. on Saturday, so maybe still some cold rain hanging around in our southern corridor. This isn't too high of a resolution, so who knows if this is actually going to come to fruition or not. So we'll flash it through this, and then I'll show you the ice parameter for that. Now we're looking at the accumulation of ice with this. This has a lot more coverage of the accumulation of ice, especially in the northern portion of the state, even about 4/10 of an inch up in Gainesville. So obviously ice is something you don't need too much of to cause problems on the roads and such, or even power lines. So then you move it down to our northern counties, still saying about the same thing, about 1/10 of an inch maybe in Eatonton, and more of that pink color draping into counties like Monroe County, Jasper County, Putnam County. Again, don't get too locked into any of these model runs. This is just the latest data, and we're continuing to see how these do trend in order to get a good prediction in store. But I did make this graphic right here that I have seen a lot of other stations replicate. And down here in central Georgia, I think this is the consensus. This is updated as of this morning. Definitely going to change in terms of where these colors go, where these lines stand. So out here in the green, I have outlined a brief mix. So that brief winter mix, that freezing rain, that sleet, and then it's going to lead the way into a cold rain for the rest of the day. As you move further to the north, getting closer to Atlanta, McDonough, Covington, Athens, you're looking at a consistent and a constant mix of that snow, that sleet, and that freezing rain. That's when you're looking at more of the ice accumulation just to the north of us here in central Georgia as it stands now. And then when you get to the very, very tippy top of the state, lots of snow. And I mean, lots for central Georgia is going to be a couple inches, maybe about a half a foot at most in the North Georgia mountains. We're looking at a couple of inches of snow to accumulate up in those areas in far North Georgia, especially northern Alabama, northern South Carolina, and up into North Carolina and Tennessee in that blue color. So we're going to continue to change that as we get more data each and every day. But right now, this is really a good telltale all. We use this for tropical systems. We use this for severe thunderstorms. We have those severe thunderstorm watches, even tornado watches when weather does get severe. Well, we have a winter storm watch as well. So all the counties you see outlined in this blue are under this winter storm watch. This starts Friday at 7 a.m., goes to 7 a.m. on Saturday. And you'll see that this is all counties just to the north of us here in central Georgia. This is going to be North Georgia, not central Georgia once again. Significant snow, sleet, and freezing rain accumulations are expected in these counties, and it does get very close to us. You'll see Covington here in Newton County. It's going to be bordering Jasper County in our northern corridor. So we'll continue to keep an eye out for any fluctuations with this watch, because that would have more confidence that we would see some more winter precipitation than is in the forecast. So 3 things that we are continuing to watch as we get closer and closer. We're a little less than 48 hours out from this event now. The big thing is going to be how cold will those temperatures actually be. Obviously, doing our little nowcasting, getting our current temperatures reading, seeing where the radar currently stands, that's going to be a big tell-all if we're going to continue to see that winter precipitation or not. We have to have those temperatures really close or right on 32 degrees to start to get any winter precipitation whatsoever. So that's something we'll continue to keep a close eye on, especially during the actual event early on Friday morning. We're also continuing to see where this low pressure system is going to track. That center of low pressure is also going to be a good indication of how much winter weather we're going to receive. So if I flash it back over to just a map right here, let's just take it over to the European model right here. You'll see that the European model, it's kind of hard to tell, but somewhere on one of the models that I was looking at that has the low pressure center outlined, it has it passing somewhere just in our south, just to the south of us here in central Georgia. The closer that center of low pressure is to us here in central Georgia, will push in more moisture over the area, and that will create a slightly warmer atmosphere. On the northern side of that center of low pressure, that's where we're getting our winter weather. So if that low pressure center is to say sag down, maybe cross the northern portion of Florida along the state line, that would bring all of this winter weather a little bit further down south and would have more implications here in central Georgia. So is it going to trend moving through central Georgia, or is it going to trend to the south of us here? That is going to be something we continue to keep an eye on over the next couple of days as well. And then the wintry mix, what exactly type of precipitation are we going to see? Are we going to see some steady flurry showers? Are we going to see freezing rain, sleet, or is it just going to be a really cold rain? And obviously the temperatures will give us a very good indication of what type of precipitation we're exactly going to see. But I did just throw a ton of graphics at you, a bunch of different individual model runs, all of that to say these 3 main points. This is where we stand as of Wednesday afternoon, and this is obviously still 48 hours out. This is going to continue to change each and every day. The chance of a mix of snow and rain, that continues to increase. I do believe in that early morning window, we are going to see our fair share of a wintry mix here in central Georgia. However, the good news is we're not looking at too many implications of ice accumulation here in central Georgia. So that is very good news. We'll continue to keep a close eye on what each individual model says, because more ice accumulation further down to the south would have implications for the roads and people out and about, especially for the morning commute as you're heading out the door on Friday morning. A few flurries and possible ice, the chances of that are going to be greater farther to the north in central Georgia. So if I pop up a map here of central Georgia, we'll just throw this graph ice model right here. We're talking Jasper, Putnam, Hancock, Monroe, Jones, Baldwin. These areas in our northernmost corridor are going to have a greater chance of seeing more of that winter weather accumulation, more maybe some steady flurry showers, more of the winter mix lasting a little longer than areas further down to the south that are more likely just going to see a very cold rain here across the area. But now also, I want you to continue to exercise caution on the roads Friday morning, no matter what. This forecast is fluid. This forecast is going to change. Nonetheless, it is best to be prepared and rather than hoping for the worst. Obviously, we definitely know that this winter weather can change in the blink of an eye here in central Georgia. We saw it about 12 years ago with the Snowmageddon, where we did see more ice further up to the north, and it was steady snow further down to the south. So we're continuing to emphasize that you will need to stay updated with us around the clock as we continue to get new model data, as we get a better idea closer and closer to the fact. But as it stands right now, I have more confidence in a mix to start the day leading into a cold rain throughout the rest of the day on Friday. And right now, ice accumulation is looking slim to none. But like I said, this can change in the blink of an eye here in central Georgia. And if you're a local like myself who's lived here for some time, you definitely know that. But nonetheless, weather impact alert day, if you pay attention to any day on the 7-day forecast, it's got to be Friday. We have issued this because we do not get winter weather very often here in central Georgia. So it's a day you'll want to pay extra special close attention to and staying updated with us, especially before heading out the door, making your way to work on Friday, or heading out and about, maybe taking the kids to school if schools are still open. So I'm going to take it over to some comments right now. Let me refresh the Facebook page and see what you guys are asking, and feel free to shoot me a comment about whatever you have a question about. Obviously, I know, like I said, I throw a lot of information at you, and I've been trying to build this graphics portfolio for some winter weather. So if you didn't understand something, just ask me a question in the comments. I'll try to get to it and answer it. Probably only going to be on here for about 10 more minutes. Then David Guerrero's got to get ready to do the midday show, and he'll have even the latest updates at noon. So let's see. We want low temperature and much snow. Yes, if it's going to get this cold, I do agree. I would much rather have the snow rather than that mix that creates the ice concerns. But we have to take what Mother Nature gives us. I'm just the messenger, unfortunately. Let's see. I see a lot of you just asking for snow. And yes, if I could control the weather, I'd give us a nice brief snow flurry shower, maybe about 2-3 inches, and hopefully it wouldn't pose any threats. But like I said, we're just continuing to make sure that you are prepared with what we do have with the latest data. Let's see. Would rather have snow and ice. I just see a lot of you putting your preferences about what you want the weather to be. And yes, if Mother Nature could listen to each and every one of us, I'm sure there would be a lot of individual clouds and a lot of individual snow showers over some people's houses. Let's see. Some people are put in distress when cold weather hits. I hope this weather doesn't cause any regrets. It's just best to be prepared, obviously. I'm not saying go raid the grocery store, go get all the milk and bread and eggs. Definitely don't do that. Just exercise caution. I think the biggest thing that you need to know is to be cautious on the roads Friday morning as you're heading to work or heading out to school, maybe dropping off your kids at school. Let's see. Basically, we don't know what's going to happen. I'd say we have a pretty good idea of what's going to happen. Like I said, if I had to bet my bottom dollar, I'm saying we're going to see that wintry mix to start, not looking at any ice concerns, and then as we go throughout the day, a very cold rain. I'm throwing a lot of individual data at you that has differing ideas just to give you an idea of the different scenarios. But yes, I would like to say that we do have a good idea of what's going to happen. Let's see, red beans and rice day for Friday. That might be a pretty good idea. Let's see. I'll be adding cornbread and the fried taters to my menu. Let's see. Ben Jones hasn't rolled up his sleeves yet. It's not going to snow. Well, you keep speaking it into existence. Mother Nature has a fun way of humbling everyone. I know that from personal experience. Let's see. All right, some of the comments are just coming in. Forecast for Thomaston, Georgia, a little further west. So if you're further west, you're going to be the first to probably see that wintry mix early in the morning. But the further north that you do live, you have the chance of seeing that winter weather sustained a little bit longer throughout the morning. Temperatures are going to run just a tad bit cooler in those areas. But right now, still looking like temperatures are probably going to hover just above freezing temperature. So we're not looking really at the concern of snow showers, except the further north that you do live. Let's see, North Georgia snow should start about when? Early Friday. Yes, if you do live in or you're watching from North Georgia, that is going to move in from the west probably around 6-7 a.m., that same window that we have with our models. And obviously that snow is going to basically be ongoing all day long up in North Georgia, especially in the mountains, and that snow is definitely going to accumulate. Let's see. Glad Santa went home. Well, Santa's pretty used to this weather, so he might actually make a trip back down in January. Let's see. Black ice on the roadways. We're not looking at ice accumulation as it stands right now. So right now we're not looking at the concern of black ice. If we continue to see a shift in more winter weather that starts to fall, that more of that wintry mix in central Georgia, black ice could definitely still pose a threat. But all the ice accumulation models that I've seen haven't showed anything in central Georgia except for one in that northern tier of counties. So be a little bit more cautious. You could run the risk of possibly seeing some black ice in counties like Jasper, Putnam, Hancock, our northernmost corridor. Is there any chance of a little snow in middle Georgia? Yes, absolutely. You definitely could see our fair share of flurry showers. It's just not going to be a long sustained snow. So if you wake up early, maybe go outside pretty early around 6 a.m., you very well could see a very brief snow shower. But then once our temperatures start to get warmer, that snow is going to get scarcer and scarcer. Let's see. What's your confidence in the low tracking further south? I will say over the past couple of days, we've continued to see pretty good consistency that this low is going to track pretty close to central Georgia. So I would say my confidence in it trekking a little further south is low as of right now. But like I said, this continues to change. We're still 48 hours out. There definitely will be some change, and whether it's very big or not. But I would say my confidence is pretty low in that low pressure system going just a little bit further south. That would bring us some more winter weather. Let's see. Should we prep for power outages and roadblocks? No, in fact, we should not do that. Like I said, don't go thinking it's Armageddon here. Right now, just continue to express caution, especially when driving out on the roads, the further north that you have to travel on Friday morning. But like I said, don't go raiding the grocery store. Don't prep for power outages and roadblocks. Right now, they are continuing to brine and salt the roads in North Georgia, but it's mainly north of the I-20 corridor. That's where the risk remains the greatest as of right now. If we see a shift in this and models start to hint at more impacts further to the south, then we may see people start to prepare for it a little bit further down here. But as it stands right now, we don't have any officials that are going out and preparing for the winter weather widespread here in central Georgia. It's still mainly to our north. Let's see. Scrolling through, making sure I haven't missed any comments. Why do you keep guessing? Why don't we just wait and see? Well, you can wait and see, but I'm trying to give you an early look at it and make sure that you are prepared. So, no snow south of Macon. Not ruling that scenario out completely, but it's looking more and more likely that south of Macon it's going to be more of a cold rain here. But I think earlier we could see our fair share of sleet. It may appear like some snow showers just because it's going to freeze right before it does get to the surface. Maybe going to fall a little bit faster than snow because snow is a little bit lighter and that's going to move a little bit slower as it does fall from the sky. Will Wilkinson and Twiggs County miss the ice? Right now, it doesn't look like Wilkinson and Twiggs have any threat of any ice accumulation. Once again, it's all north of us here in central Georgia, with the exception of maybe Monroe, Jasper, and Putnam. That's where we're seeing some of the ice accumulation start to push into central Georgia. So this is really important, especially with many of you having to go to work on Friday morning. The ice accumulation, say you have to travel to Atlanta for work, you travel up to Athens, anywhere in North Georgia, out of the central Georgia area, that's where you're going to start to run into some winter weather conditions on the roads. So you'll want to express some caution if you do have to drive further up to the north. Let's see. What time are we looking at the rain coming in? Like I said, around 6 to 7 a.m. looks to be that window. And I'll go ahead and flash it back to the future view model right here. This is 7 a.m. and we start to see that pink color start to move into our western corridor. Although we are seeing a little bit of disagreement with the timing, I will say most of the models are agreeing on this timing. The HRRR model, a very high resolution model, is saying a little bit different as of right now, maybe a little bit earlier in the night. But this has been pretty consistent, I'd say, over the last 24 hours, our graph model. So that is continuing to move in around the 6 to 7 a.m. window. I know it's a pretty inopportune time. That's when kids are heading out to the bus stop and such. But if you live further to the east, you're still not going to see much of that winter precipitation or that rain until probably about 8, 9 a.m. right there, according to the future view model. And like I said, it looks to be predominantly a wintry mix as we start the day, and that's going to lead the way into a cold rain as we continue to warm up just after that. So you'll see once we get into 10, 11, 12, that is when we start to see more of the rain in there. And I do believe temperatures are going to hover above freezing temperature once we get into the morning hours. So I think the chances of a wintry precipitation may be a little bit more short-lived than what this model run does say. Let's see. Am I from Macon? I am not from Macon. I'm from Warner Robins, and I see a lot of talks, people asking about school closing. Well, I'm actually from Warner Robins and Houston County, obviously. So, yes, any school closings, I really cannot give you a good idea of that. That's where you're going to want to talk to your school superintendents. I'm just the messenger. I just do the weather. I don't control the school closings, unfortunately. But if we do get notified of any schools that do close, then we will update you on 13WMAZ.com. We'll try to get that message out there so you know before getting ready for school on Thursday night. See, any bit of freezing rain in central Georgia shuts down. Yes, typically that is normally the case because we just don't see it that often, and it is so variable because we're in the corner of a country where it takes a lot for snow to happen. Other areas of the country, they see snow no problem, and it's just consistent snow showers. We're just in an area where we're kind of nestled between some moisture, and that typically starts to warm us up before we do really get a lot of snow showers, and it just makes it a little bit too warm for that snow to fall. But obviously, the freezing rain and the sleet may even be more of a case to close roads and such because it makes it dangerous to be out on the roads and drive. It's a lot harder to drive on some icy roads as opposed to just some snow that is sticking down there. Obviously still difficult to do so, but they can have more drastic implications sometimes, so it does make sense for that. Can you show future view again? Yes, I'll play it for you right here, and I'll take it full screen so you guys can get a better view of it. So right now, this is 7 a.m., that winter mix moving in. Still, most of the snow is to our north here in central Georgia. The winter mix continues to have better coverage. You'll see some snow further down to the south. I'm not really sure that's going to happen because I think areas further to the south are going to be even warmer than for areas further to the north. By about 9 a.m., we'll begin to warm up temperature-wise above freezing temperature. 10 a.m., you can still see a little mix of that winter mix in the snow. Like I said, this kind of cluster of blue that you see down to the south, I think that's more of a wintry mix. And then by about 11, maybe even a little bit before that, I think temperatures are really going to lead the way into just some very, very cold rain here in central Georgia, especially throughout the rest of the afternoon. That was a little fast right there. I had to drag it so I could fit it out. So this is 12 p.m. right here, taking it on into 1, 2, and 3. When we should get the warmest this afternoon. And I'm not saying we're going to warm up substantially. It's still going to be very cold outside. We're talking high temperatures in the upper 30s, but that's still good enough to not create any of that winter precipitation. So I think that pink color is going to move out of here a little faster than what Future View says. And then leading the way into the evening, where yes, it looks to be mostly rain here in central Georgia, but the northern portion of the state is going to get their fair share of frozen precipitation in the form of snow or a winter mix. Any hint that warmer weather is in the forecast later this month? Heard there could be another system later this month. Obviously, we don't like to forecast past 7 days here because once you do that, it's really just a guessing game. It's anyone's best bet, and obviously this is kind of what people like to post. They like to post these extended models and start to make people prepare for something that we're not certain that is going to come whatsoever. So we're continuing to keep a close eye on the future. But as it stands right now, not looking at any systems past this into next week. We briefly warm up. It looks like we finally get to high temperatures in the 50s. Yay. And we're looking at lows still to start out in the 20s even as we get into next week. But not seeing anything on the radar of our next system. Like I said, past 7 days, it's typically inaccurate information and it's anyone's guess. That can fluctuate very, very drastically. I know a couple weeks ago, people were talking about maybe I think earlier this week on the long range models, and it was showing maybe widespread snow, even a half a foot of snow up in North Georgia, and getting our fair share down here. Obviously, this might have been what it was talking about, and look how much it's fluctuated. A couple days later than what it was originally trending, and now not trending towards any snow down here in central Georgia, really just a winter mix. So it's typically inaccurate information that you hear past the 7 days. If we have something that is on the radar and we can have good confidence in predicting, then you will be the first to hear it from us on the weather team. So it would be safe to drive to work at 7 a.m. That's going to be the window when that precipitation is moving in. I'm not saying you can't drive in it. I'm just saying that you need to exercise extreme caution because that's when we have the greater chances of seeing the mix, the freezing rain, the sleet that could possibly create messy conditions on the roads. But if we come on here and we're doing live streams, I'm doing the morning show at 5 a.m. on Friday, and we're still looking at temperatures that are already around freezing temperature, continuing to trek on up, and we run the less chance of actually seeing any of that winter mix precipitation. So keep a close eye on the forecast. Definitely tune in here before heading out the door on Friday morning to know what kind of precipitation that we are dealing with. But I would say exercise extreme caution and obviously use your best judgment. I'm just the messenger, just giving you my opinion, and I will be driving into work a little bit earlier in the night. So thankfully I will be not be having to combat any of these winter weather conditions. Looking forward to the 50s. Yes, when you've been this cold that we have had in central Georgia, 50s seem like summer vacation. So it is a big cold spell only going to continue. So that's where the latest data stands as of right now. So like I said, the three main bullet points I want you to take away, I'll put them back up here. We're looking at the chance for a mix of snow and rain to continue. So that wintry mix, that is continuing to increase. So I do believe we're going to start the day out with that wintry mix. The good news is I think we're going to warm up throughout the morning. It's going to lead the way into a very cold rain, which is really not that best of news, but at the same time, it's going to allow for anything that is frozen on the ground to start to melt, which will be good in terms of ice accumulations. A few flurries and possible ice, that chance is going to be greater the further north that you live here in central Georgia. Not looking like ice is really going to be present here, but we very well could see our fair share of local areas that do pop up some black ice, and we could see a few steady flurries. But that is going to be the northernmost extent of central Georgia, and that is not set in stone. It continues to show the trend that north of I-20 is the area that really needs to be concerned for the potential weather impacts, but that could trek a little further down south into central Georgia. Nonetheless, all of this to say, just exercise caution. That is going to be your best bet when heading out on the roads Friday morning. It is a work day, especially if you're traveling north further up to Atlanta or further up to Athens. I would definitely advise maybe trying to postpone that, especially if you're going up to those areas, but exercise caution if you absolutely have to be out on the roads. It's going to be a messy situation, and obviously we are brining the roads because many people do have to get to work. So hopefully the roads aren't too messy, but the further north you travel is where you're going to start to get that winter weather that's going to make it a little more difficult to drive, and also steady showers or steady snow showers and that winter mix further up to the north. So those are the three things I want you to take away. Again, the timing of this moving in around 6-7 a.m. into our western counties, starting out around 7-8, maybe lingering into about 9-10 is when we're looking at that winter mix to stay put. And then after that, I think we will warm up into conducive enough temperatures to be above freezing temperature for a very cold rain event all day long on Friday for central Georgia. So I'm going to hop off the stream. David Guerrero's got about 20 minutes to prepare for midday. He'll have even more of the latest updates associated with this winter weather. Like I said, continue to stay updated with us around the clock. Ben Jones tonight at 5 and 6, 10 and 11. He'll have even more updates on this. And I'll be back tomorrow morning to see where we're trending as of the latest data, all the way up until the actual event, a little less than 48 hours. Things will change, hopefully going to stay pretty consistent like they have over the past 24 hours or so. So thank you for tuning in. If you have any further questions, shoot me a comment on one of my recent posts, or you can personal message me on Facebook. So thank you for tuning in, and I will see you guys later.